Good evening, everyone. My computer says 6:30, though I've not heard my clock on the mantle chime, but I'm sure it will momentarily. I'm going to call the Policy and Personnel meeting to order. It is 6:30. Michelle, may I have roll call, please?
Wong,
Here.
Levy,
Here.
Jacobs.
Here.
I have all members present with Wong in the boardroom.
All right. May I have approval of the agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the agenda. Any other discussion or questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have a, oh, I just lost my place. Okay. All opposed? The agenda is approved, excuse me. May I have approval of the January 12th, 2021 meeting minutes?
I move approval of the January 12th Policy and Personnel 2021 minutes.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the January 12th, 2021 Personnel and Policy Committee meeting minutes. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So the motion of the minutes passes. This might be our quickest meeting yet. We are now at personnel items, and we have up the January 26, 2021 employment recommendations, Exhibit A and B. Do I hear a motion?
Move approval.
I move approval of the employee recs for January 26th, both Exhibits A and B.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the January 26, 2021 employment recs, Section A and B. Any questions or discussion?
Not a question, but I would like to say thank you and congratulations to Ms. Gartland on her 21 years, and also to Mr. Kraus for his 30 years. We will definitely miss both of them in the district.
Thank you, Board Member Levy, and I as well. They are phenomenal. All right, hearing none. All in favor of approving the January 26, 2021 minutes, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Okay. So the January 26, 2021 employment recommendations, Exhibit A and B, passes. So that is all on our agenda. So our next meeting date will be on Tuesday, February 9th, and we're now at adjournment. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? The meeting is adjourned. I think we set a new record. Awesome. See everybody soon.
All right. Good evening, everybody. The time is now 7 o'clock, and it's time for our board business meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order here at 7. Ms. Shope, could we please get a roll call? And I believe Board Member Anderson will be running a few minutes late this evening.
Okay, thank you. Jacobs?
Here.
Delgado?
Present.
Miller?
Present.
Levy?
Here.
Wong?
Here.
And if Anderson is here yet? And I do not see him or hear him. So I have 6 members present, and Anderson hopefully will join us later. Wong is in the boardroom.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Shope. Would somebody like to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Next, we are going to, rise here for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to remain unmuted because I've always thought it was a little weird that there was nothing happening. So I was planning on saying the pledge. I hope that's cool with everybody. So we'll just rise for that. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next agenda item is announcements and recognitions, or the next section of our agenda. Board Clerk Wong, would you mind reading the announcements for us this evening, please?
Sure. The announcements for Tuesday, January 26, 2021 are: the School District of Beloit offers early childhood screening free of charge. If you have a child between the ages of 2 and 5 and have concerns about their development, Pupil Services is a resource for you. Early childhood screenings are by appointment only and are offered on February 17th, March 17th, and April 21st. Please call 608-361-4020 to arrange for an appointment. Or if you can visit the school district's website for more information. Many of our students' artwork is showcased on the district's website. We invite everyone to visit the news section and click on student highlights. These works of art are made possible by our 4K through seniors in high school. Congratulations to our Rotary Students of the Week for December and January. Beloit Memorial High School students Sydney Prowse, Megan Scott, Max Juice, Alyssa Harmon, Tyler Jordan, and Jack Johnson. We would also like to congratulate our Rotary Teacher of the Month for December and January, Beloit Learning Academy teacher Dan Hero, and Aldrich Intermediate teacher Caroline Lynch. John Bask, Beloit Learning Academy teacher, was honored by the Beloit Daily News as January 2021 Volunteer of the Month. Mr. Basket, has been making desks for students to use at home during distance learning. He is passionate about students having a desk to study and learn from during distance learning. To date, he has made 40 desks for area students. Todos Unidos is hosting a virtual event on Thursday, January 28th from 5 to 7 p.m. The virtual meeting is entitled Updates to the DACA program and will be presented by Matthew Gilhouse, immigration lawyer. Invites and a link to the upcoming event have been shared with the School District of Beloit families. This event is presented in Spanish. The Hispanic Language Barrier Committee continues to meet the first Wednesday of every month from 5:30 to 7 p.m. This committee is made up of district employees, parents, community members, and board members Megan Miller and Maria Delgado. If you would like to be part of this committee, please reach out to our board members Miller and Delgado. And lastly, a letter of thanks was sent out to the Board of Education, and the sender asked for the letter to be shared during the announcements. Dear Board of Education members, I would like to first share my gratitude for the honor of having our beautiful natatorium named after me. While it is only my name going up on the building, I want to acknowledge that this program and our athletes' success has been a group effort of many coaches, parents, and staff over years. I consider it a privilege to work in this district and with our community. Thank you for this honor and recognition. Sincerely, Richard Dick Vogel. This concludes the announcements for January.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And I believe next on our agenda, we're going to hand the mic over to Ms. Christopa for recognitions.
Thank you, Board Member Miller. Good evening, everyone. It's always a pleasure sharing our awards and recognition. Tonight, I will be the only one speaking. The individual award recipients say gracious thank you and appreciate the time that you're giving for me to read about their awards. So we humbly thank and recognize one of our district supporters of our science and math initiatives. As they have done so in the past, ExxonMobil has generously donated a $500 ExxonMobil Educational Alliance school grant to Robinson Elementary and Fruzen Intermediate to enhance the science and math curriculum and/or hands-on learning for our students. We thank them for their generosity. Congratulations to Mr. Kurt Hendrick, who teaches 8th grade history at Aldrich and Intermediate, and he is one of our newest nationally board certified teachers. Mr. Hendrick works tirelessly to ensure all students have what they need in order to feel valued as a member of the Aldrich family while receiving the best education possible. This is an advanced teaching credential that goes well beyond state licensure. The National Board for Professional Teaching Standards certifies teachers who successfully complete its rigorous certification process. And what does it take to become board certified? Serious hard work and dedication. You must immerse yourself in best practices in your content area, be well-versed in good teaching practices, and you must attain and achieve 5 core propositions that are laid out for this program. You must demonstrate that you are committed to students and their learning. You must demonstrate knowledge and expertise in the subject matter that you teach and be able to teach those subjects to a higher level to students. You must demonstrate the ability to manage and monitor student learning. And you must systematically demonstrate your practice of teaching and learn from that experience and become part of a learning community. Add to that only 3% of our nation's teaching force is nationally board certified. So welcome to that 3%, Mr. Hendrick. Thank you for your dedication to teaching, to your students, and elevating our district. Congratulations. The next individual was nominated by Mr. Sean Winters. Mr. Mark Gavon works in the district's facility department as our courier and HVAC preventative maintenance program. Mr. Gavon has been with our district for more than 35 years. On December 15th, he was on Riverside in Beloit on his way to Robinson Elementary. He saw a 2-car accident with 1 car on the side of the road and the other in the ditch. Pulling on his experience as working as a volunteer fireman, he quickly assessed where his attention was needed and headed towards the car in the ditch. He saw a mom with a severe gash to her head and a 2-year-old child strapped in the car seat. Mr. Gavon removed the child from the vehicle and then, grabbing his first aid kit, he quickly applied pressure to the mom's wound until the fire department was on the scene. You know, we often talk or hear about Beloit Proud, which we can say in various situations, from winning in athletics or facing adversity in our community. This example is of one person stopping when a family was in trouble, not because he was curious, not because he had something to gain, but rather he stopped because it was the right thing to do. And that is what makes our district what it is, the individuals like him. So we say thank you, Mr. Gavon, and we are Beloit proud of you. The next individual we would like to honor and recognize is Mrs. Michelle Hendrick Nora. She speaks with grace, poise, and impact. Her actions are thoughtful, engaging, and once again, impactful. Her peers see that, her students see that, the community sees that, and the district sees that. Mrs. Hendrick Nora was the recipient of the 2021 Racial Justice Award from the YWCA Rock County. McNeil School staff nominated Mrs. Hendrick Nora for this honor, and she was recognized during the annual Martin Luther King commemoration on Saturday, January 16th. The Racial Justice Award recognizes an individual who actively strives to eliminate racism and promotes racial equality. Individuals nominated demonstrate leadership and service to others. Her list of volunteerism, mentoring, leadership have a far-reaching scope, and again, an impact in our schools, in our district, and in our community. Ms. Suzette Nunez works with Mrs. Hendrick Nora on the leadership and equity teams of McNeil Intermediate Schools. And this is what she wrote. Obstacles become fuel for her passion. She willingly and without complaint pushes not only herself forward, but brings others into the fold to accelerate change. She intentionally cultivates an inclusive culture. Students, families, and staff alike admire Mrs. Hendrick Nora because she makes it known she is on their side and cares deeply for them. We are indeed Beloit proud of Mrs. Hendrick Nora. Congratulations. The next nomination was submitted by Mrs. Joanne Armstrong, and it includes our Airmark Food Service team and Durham team. The individuals we're going to recognize this evening are Jared Haxton, Beth Ann England, Holly Goodwin, Jeb Warner, Jessica McCoy, and Shonda Richardson. It is with pleasure we recognize their service to the School District of Beloit and the Beloit community at large. Although Airmark Food Service and Durham Transportation serve in different roles and fulfill different missions, collectively they serve our students. Together, we were confronted with challenges, overcoming obstacles, identifying solutions, and moving our students toward a better tomorrow. We are grateful and proud of our partners, and it's an honor to have them on our team. And I think to add to that, you know that since March, we have been able to provide meals to our students and the community at large 7 days a week, and those meals have been delivered. So they fed not only our students, but the students in our community at large. And Joanne and her team would like to recognize them for that. Thank you. That will conclude this evening's awards and recognition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stopa, and thank you so much. What an impressive set of recognitions, and feeling very Beloit proud right now. Way to go. So that moves us into public comment on the section of our meeting. So it's a bit non-traditional this evening, so I just want to let us know that before reading kind of the usual stuff we read, due to our public hearing that was held last Saturday, January 23rd from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. on the subject of athletics and extracurriculars, public comment today is limited to 30 minutes for this subject, and we have suspended the practice of yielding time for this meeting only. We have additionally allocated 15 minutes for public for topics outside of the athletics and extracurricular activities. So having shared that, let me the right spot here to read our usual stuff. Okay, citizens are welcome to attend all open meetings of the Board of Education. Robert's Rules of Order will be followed at all times. Persons attending board meetings are expected to conduct themselves in a respectful and courteous manner that models appropriate behavior for our students. Persons wishing to comment are expected to comply with the following norms in order to maintain a respectful and orderly meeting and to protect all persons, including members of the public, district employees, and district students from personal attacks or discussion of confidential matters in a public forum. Comments should please be directed to members of the Board of Education and not district employees, students, or other members of the public in attendance at the meeting. Comments that attack any individual personally or professionally or are derogatory or demean others will not be tolerated. Personnel matters or concerns regarding specific district personnel are not appropriate topics to be addressed during an open meeting and should be handled in accordance with district policy and procedures. Concerns or questions regarding students will not be allowed. Comments regarding another individual's membership in a legally protected class, i.e. race, sexual orientation, religion, etc., is strictly prohibited. Response from the board will be limited to clarifying inaccurate information, seeking additional information from the citizen, or acknowledging that the citizen hasn't understood. The board will not debate with the citizen, and the board may not take action on an item raised during public comment that is not on the meeting notice/agenda. The chair will interrupt and rule a citizen who violates any of these norms out of order. If ruled out of order by the chair, the person's opportunity to address the board will end immediately and the microphone will be turned off. A citizen who violates these norms may be restricted from making public comments at future meetings. Thank you for your participation and your courtesy. Having said that, Ms. Schultz, do we have anybody in attendance this evening or any emails to read for public comment?
I have nobody in attendance who has submitted a card to speak, and I have 2 emails to read.
Thank you.
The first email is from Jessica Scott. I am a parent of 2 high school athletes. I wanted to quickly share with you that I truly believe, under the direction of Mr. Joel Beard, we can successfully begin to phase in some opportunities to compete. Research shows that when students are connected to something along with academics, rather than be through sports, clubs, or just strong relationships with staff members, it leads to a lifelong and well-rounded human person. We thrive on relationships. It's human nature. While it is still very high risk for us to be at full capacity in schools, I believe that starting with small cohorts of students in person, we can begin to prepare for our safe return, hopefully for the final term of the year. As a parent, I want to see my children get back engaged in what they love. As a teacher and coach, I am so terribly sad for all the time I have missed with my students and athletes. One thing I will mention is that while I enjoy being on the field and/or court with my athletes for the sake of competition and the fun of it all, the most important piece of coaching for me has always been building connections with students and teaching valuable moments with kids that otherwise wouldn't be addressed in the classroom setting. Students are currently receiving the best of our academic opportunities given the situation, but there are lessons that will be learned in the gym that cannot be taught via online. Teaching kids skills like concentration, teamwork, sportsmanship, how to lose and come back from it, how to win and learn from it, physical strength, mental strengths. I am sure any coach would attest to just how long the list of those teaching opportunities are. I wouldn't take too much more time listing them all. I just really hope that you will allow us an opportunity to try. We have to start somewhere. Now is the time to start.
Thank you very much for that comment. Ms. Schultz, would you like to read the next email, please?
The next email is from Mackay Horton. Hello, board. I really want to encourage you all to vote yes for students to get back to our clubs, sports, and other activities. By voting yes, you are finally giving us something to look forward to. I said this point on Saturday, but I want to make sure the entire board gets to hear it. These extracurriculars are one of the biggest faces of our district, and to the public's eye, our district as a whole is looking far from what we want it to look like. The district, however, had many great articles made about it back before we shut everything down almost a year ago now, and I think having our sports, clubs, theater, band, and other groups be able to showcase ourselves again to the public and show how hardworking students from this school district are committed to be some of the best in the area, will set a statement to everyone and have our district looked at in the right way and not as something we are not. So I am begging the board to please give us our extracurriculars, because for many of us, it's the last thing we are holding on hope for this year, and losing this too will do more damage to us than you think. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. And at this time, are there other comments, or has anybody filled out a card of any kind on the subject of extracurriculars and athletics?
No, they have not.
All right, so seeing that there are no additional comments on that subject, are there any emails or anybody wishing to speak on a subject other than athletics and extracurriculars?
I do not have any emails, and I do not have anybody in the room wishing to speak on another topic.
Okay, so it sounds like that's all we have. Thank you very much for those who participated in public comment both this evening and at our public hearing on Saturday. It's definitely appreciated. At this time, we are going to move on to the part of our agenda dedicated to reports, and we're going to start this evening with our student board member report. So, Mr. Wong, whenever you're ready.
Is this working? Yeah. Good. Okay. Good evening. This month's report will mainly be a summary of what our high school clubs have been up to lately. I decided against polling the students again, as I'm under the impression a lot of people are getting sick of the surveys, and there's quite a bit of division among the students. I sent out an email to some of our club advisors, at least one advisor from each club, and will be reporting on clubs who have started or completed projects or competitions recently. To begin, 3 of our high school's clubs have recently competed in regional and statewide competitions. Academic Decathlon competed in a regional tournament on January 8th and placed 25th out of 45 teams, where junior Dalton Rakowski got the second place ribbon in economics. HOSA, Health Occupations Students of America, has been attending and is planning to continue to attend virtual leadership conferences throughout this year, and is currently competing in the Wisconsin HOSA academic competition. Lastly, DECA has recently competed virtually in their regional competition, where they're still awaiting their results. Good luck, HOSA and DECA. In addition to this, 2 of our arts clubs are staying active now as well, with the art club working on a Black Lives Matter window mural for the high school, and the theater, which has written and is working to record the final product for their 2-part puppet show. The episodes, The Muppets and the Prawns and The Puppets in Peril, will be released in February. Finally, there are 3 miscellaneous clubs that I struggled to group together, which have also been very busy lately. First, Leo Club bought and wrapped gifts this holiday season and is currently working on making blankets for a local homeless shelter. Second, the NHS has a tutoring program up and running at Converse, led by Kylie Camholz, and is in the process of beginning 2 more at Robinson and Merrill. We've also had members actively volunteering at Meals on Wheels. And finally, our Secretary and Vice President Piper Mitchell and Miguel Garcia are continuing to produce Leader of the Week videos to highlight some of our members. These videos can be found on the BMHS webpage. Lastly, Beloit Unified Inclusion began their polar plunge yesterday in order to raise funds to support our Special Olympic athletes. Anyone can donate to the event, and BMHS staff and students are able to sign up and participate in the Polar Plunge's weekly challenges for the chance to win prizes. This week's challenge is to go sledding or biking and can be submitted by sending a picture or video to apackard@sdb.k12.wi.us. A few of our school's other clubs have continued to meet this year. Some are even in the process of planning events and projects for the upcoming month. Other clubs have been put on pause and have not been meeting at all this year. In fact, over half of our school's clubs advisors have unfortunately informed me that they are not meeting anymore or didn't respond to my email. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for that terrific report. And as a former Leo Club advisor, I'm so excited to hear about all the great news. So thanks for your work on that. And it's so wonderful to hear about all the things that are going on. So thanks for taking the time to do that. At this time, I was hoping that we could have our reports posted from each committee, since all of our committees are televised and recorded and available to watch on YouTube. I don't know if Board Member Wong, did you want to just give a quick overview of planning and budget, since there's not an attachment? Go ahead if you'd like to.
Yes, I can. Yep, I'll make it brief. First of all, we met on January 5th and we had three main topics of discussion. The first was the Forward NGL program, which stands for Next Generation Learning. We are in phase 2 of that great program, and it's a 5-step process that we are going through. The second phase is going to involve implementing or engaging more of the business community. So we're well on our way on that. The second topic was the strategic plan RFP. Outline in preparation of a comprehensive RFP is to solicit diverse organizations to assist us into and through the strategic planning process, which hopefully we'll be going through later this year. The last item was the district student device refresh. The district has vetted via the staff and administration and the current and future technological and device needs of the district. Proposals were presented to the committee, and the approval of the committee for final approval of the entire board was accepted to accept the proposal of TRA, Technology Resource Advisors, to purchase Chromebooks for our district. The details are all on the proposal. They can be viewed on board docs from the 1/5 Planning and Budget Agenda meeting or the 1/12 board meeting. Our next meeting is on February 2nd at 5:15.
Thank you very much for that. If other committee chairs would like the opportunity to speak, I won't stop anybody, but just so our viewers know that the additional reports are available posted in board docs for Oversight and Finance Committee, Policy and Personnel, as well as our legislative update. Board Member Levy, would you like to speak, or are you okay with the attachment?
No, thank you for the opportunity, but the attachment includes everything.
Thank you very much. Board Member Jacobs, did you want to give a quick overview, or are you okay with what's posted?
I'm okay with what's posted too. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you very much. So we are going to move out of reports then and into our superintendent's report. And so Dr. Keister, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Good evening. So I have 2 items in the superintendent's board report to start off with. As part of our board goals, we wanted to hear opportunities from schools to highlight both their school improvement plans, as well as highlight things that they are proud of and things that they are working on. So tonight we have Aldrich, and I will turn it over to the Principal Joe over at Aldrich.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Keiser. Is the report, or are the slides going to be projected onto the screen?
I can do that.
I can also present if you'd like.
Your choice. You tell me.
All right, I'll do it.
Okay.
All right. I can't see any chat or anything except what's on my screen. So can you all see the slides at this point? The first one should say Spotlight on Aldrich.
Yeah, it looks great.
All right, awesome. And let me just point out that picture. First of all, thank you guys. Thank you everyone for the opportunity to come up here to speak to the board and to the community and to the staff, students, and families of the School District of Beloit. It's a great opportunity to share what we call roses. You'll see in the slides, every slide that represents something positive is represented by a rose. I learned that from Mr. Bosco back at McNeil when we worked there together. We had roses and thorns. There won't be any thorns in this one. It's going to be a bouquet of thornless roses as we move through it. And so when you see those, that's what it represents. Good things, beautiful things, positive things that are happening at Aldrich Intermediate School. And the first thing to talk about is just that picture right there. I love that picture, and it really has driven from the creativity of one of my teachers. Chris Lemaster is a 4th grade teacher at Aldrich. He has a drone, and he was working with his son, who's also a student at Aldrich, and they flew the drone over the school, did a little video, sent it to me. I've got about 15 seconds of incredible footage of the school that I can take and snap pictures of throughout to offer different representations of the school. You'll notice there the front of the school is just beautiful. It was remodeled last year. So again, thank you to another great rose as our school is slowly and surely becoming absolutely beautiful inside and out. And thank you to the School District Beloit for the attention and time that it's placed on Aldrich, and for Sean Winters and the vision that he's had to make it such a beautiful place for our kids and our families and our staff. All right, with that, let me jump into my bouquet. The first rose is we now have a third Aldrich administrator. And this has really been a great significant move forward for us. We were without one for about half the year as we moved through different candidates and things, and we now have 3 administrators at Aldrich. There is Cherie Thibodeau, our newest administrator from Madison. We welcome her, and she's been a great help to what we're trying to do at Aldrich. And then Sinem Bertling is our other assistant principal. She works with 7th and 8th grade, Cherie with 4th and 5th. And that third administrator has produced better outcomes for Aldrich because it has taken things off of the plates of the other 2 administrators and has allowed us to create a robust vision for each task that is appropriate to the machinery of the school and getting things accomplished. We have a list of probably 50 different tasks assigned to one of the 3 administrators, and we're developing visions for each of those in our areas that we've captured there in those tasks. And that's also allowed us to share the work much more and bring an instructional focus to what's going on at Aldrich. And that robust vision, particular assignment and tasks for each of us, and the focus that it gives us on instruction and has produced better outcomes for Aldrich. And so that's our first rose, and thank you for that opportunity to work with a third administrator at Aldrich. It's awesome. Second rose, we think of COVID and what that has produced as a worldwide pandemic, and also how it's changed education significantly, really forever. And what's the silver lining to the COVID cloud? In my mind, it's clear that it has enabled a focus on instruction that supersedes the focus that is possible when students are face-to-face. And the reason for that is it eliminates any of the distractions that occur within the classroom environment. Those are minimized, and so great instruction really can be focused upon and can be delivered. And that's what we focused on at Aldrich is creating that great instruction. And so part of tonight is talking about our school improvement plan. And our school improvement plan has been for our primary goal in language arts and math can be summarized as creating high quality lesson plans for instruction that occurs. Now that may not sound like much to you, but it is really significant. As we think about a framework through which to deliver instruction, everything matters, and certain ways to deliver instruction are worse than other ways, and certain ways are better. And we think that we have discovered and put together a framework that will allow for optimum instruction, engaging instruction. It helps teachers take what they need from the standard into the learning target, and then take that learning target and spread it out over a framework that delivers instruction in a high quality way. And so we're teaching each part of that lesson plan, and we're trying to get teachers to think and to breathe and to walk and to talk in those frameworks, so that no matter if they're teaching someone how to write with a pen or they're teaching somebody how to factor binomials, the same framework works. The same framework produces great instruction, but they got to learn it, to live it, to breathe it. So it's just like talking, just like breathing, just like walking. You don't think about it, but it's the way instruction is delivered. So that's really the heart and soul of our SIP, and we're deep into creating that template. It's already been created, creating the rubric to be able to determine what high quality frameworks look like for instruction. And we're working on a scope and a sequence to begin teaching the staff the particulars of that rubric and what those high quality frameworks actually look like, sound like, feel like in instruction. We're also, as part of our SIP, looking at we have Kathleen Budge, who is, the school board has approved her as a trainer for us because of the amount of money it costs to bring her to the school district of Beloit and to Aldrich. And she's delivered already 3 wonderful trainings. They're about 5 hours out of 8 on a day, or on Wednesdays, 1 Wednesday a month. And the Disrupting Poverty training is helping us see really the largest demographic that we have as our students are striving for better academic performance. It helps us as a staff understand the needs of the students that come to us from what's termed the low socioeconomic status. Free and reduced lunch. Title I, our students are 76% free and reduced lunch. And so it is our really a universal instruction issue, and it helps us to embrace our mission, which is to provide each student exactly what they need to be successful, to help us understand how to best reach and meet the needs of those students, of which such a large portion come from that setting. And so all of that comes together in this piece of instruction that is the silver lining. We can focus on instruction, and there's been a great, strong coaching emphasis that we've built over the last couple of years. And at this point, teachers are asking and reaching out for coaching, which is one of the goals that we had to create an energy and a momentum for that. So that's starting to occur, and that's very exciting. And it's allowing us to really fine-tune that instruction and make it impactful. And I've seen some of lessons through the virtual lens, or through the virtual setting, I mean, that's as good as any I've ever seen. I'll give you an example of that. 5th grade art class, all right? 5th grade art class. Imagine you're in 5th grade art, and the teacher is talking about color theory, which is how you use colors to express emotion, right? And he's pointing this out in great famous works of art, using a Picasso painting to show the different colors and how they demonstrate emotion. And then as he's teaching the students and he's instructing them even further, the learning target for the day is apply what you've learned in color theory, which is that art uses colors to build and create feeling, to analyze great works of art. There's the learning target. And so he shows to the kids Monet water lilies, and they examine this great, famous, wonderful artwork, and they're looking for the different colors, and they're describing and talking about how it makes them feel. 5th grade level, and he's using Nearpod, which is one of our tools in the district, to get all of those thoughts posted and getting more participation into that lesson. And then he moves on, and they continue to apply this analyzing of art through color theory to Van Gogh, Look at the Night, another famous great piece of artwork, and they're analyzing that for the colors and how it makes them feel. It's just a marvelous lesson. If I'd have had that, maybe I wouldn't be using stick figures today, or at least I'd be using better colors with them. And so the instruction that I'm seeing throughout the school is high quality. It's as good as I've ever seen, and the focus on instruction is really enabling our teachers to produce some great lessons. In 6th and 7th grade science, 6th graders are working on extendable grabbers. The 7th graders are working on creating 3D prosthetic models. Now, I'm going to quick switch out of this just for a minute, and I want to read something to you that just describes what's happening in 6th and 7th grade science with our new pilot. The Aldrich science team worked with the 7th grade students in developing 3D prosthetic models for individuals in need, while 6th grade students worked to develop 3D extendable grabbers. Students were tasked with using the engineering design process to explore solutions to various design problems. Our student engineers engaged in brainstorming ideas, selecting potential materials to use, developing 2D sketches of their creations, building prototypes, testing and modifying them to determine if their products meet the needs of the group or individual whom they're trying to help. Even within our distance learning setting, our Aldrich students were able to embrace real-life problems that challenged them to become creative thinkers and critical thinkers as they faced and overcame the significant obstacles found in the path of creation, invention, and progress. So that's what's happening in our 6th and 7th grade science. And here are some examples of the prosthetics, the 3D models that they actually built after they sketched out. They looked at problems of design, and they created their own 3D models of those prosthetics. Here's an example of a sketch, a prototype, and then the actual extendable grabber in action from a 6th grade classroom. So we've got great instruction occurring, and the silver lining of the COVID cloud is that's possible. We had a fourth grade class, the whole entire fourth grade class, going to the Deluge Dairy Farm in Janesville, breaking out of the COVID quarantine, able to interact with animals and see the world and make the world small through a virtual field trip. And they ended up naming a female calf. 3 of the names that were devised were Addie. One of those kids decided to call the baby cow Addie after Aldrich. Another was Blue after our Go Blue, and then another one was Josephine, which I guess was named after me. So that's a great honor that there's a heifer somewhere in the world named after Joe Vrydox. That's awesome. And different quotes from the other assistant principals about the instruction that they're seeing. Mrs. Bertling says it was like a great theater performance, flowing, engaging, and based on a well-written story. In this case, a well-written lesson plan. Ms. Thibodeau wrote, I've seen some very engaging lessons with relevance to students' lives and interests that expertly demonstrate solid instructional practices, care, and consideration for students. And of course, my quote I already told you, which is, there's a cow named after me. How wonderful is that? That's great instruction. And then a third rose is the collaboration that occurs at the intermediate level between the principals. Now, what does that have to do with Aldrich? Well, coming into a virtual framework, everything is new. Things need to be invented for teachers. They're experiencing some things that are new every day with technology, with interacting with students, with trying to engage kids and increase participation and attendance. All those things are just brand new in this setting. And as administrators, as the leaders of the school, everything we're doing is new as well. And so the dynamic that we've created amongst the 4 of us, Julio Lopez, Michelle Hendricks-Nora, Sarah Norton, and myself, we're a tight group. We talk about everything. We meet frequently. We were just together today for about 90 minutes talking about trying to hone in on more face-to-face instruction, details of that plan, also small groups, bringing them in. I mean, we are inventing things on the fly. We're constantly communicating. Those supportive relationships, the joyful energy, we get stuff done. And that improves outcomes at Aldrich. And so that's another rose. 4th rose is the great work that my staff is doing with attendance. Now, attendance data certainly doesn't compare to what it is face-to-face when we're in the virtual setting. It doesn't compare to face-to-face in terms of the data, but if I just want to give you a little taste of how difficult attendance is in the virtual setting. There are so many moving parts. So what I have listed on the screen is multiple distance learning criteria. So if I'm a teacher in the classroom, how do I find out if a kid is present or not? How do I mark that? How do I know it? Well, in face-to-face, it's easy. You go look. If Joey's sitting in class, he's there, right? That's not that hard to figure out. But when you're talking about a distance learning setting, there are all these different ways you can decide if someone is present or not. There's evidence of daily work in a million different ways. Really, any kind of two-way communication between the teacher and the student would indicate a presence or attendance. Learning management system records, logging into Skyward, anything like that would be a record of attendance. Submission of an assignment or anything that's been assigned. Logging into a system, progress reports that are returned, emails that are returned, paper packets that are returned. Think of all the ways attendance in a synchronous event, an actual class could be perceived or taken account of. A student is actually present during the event. Teachers collect evidence that the student has accessed the event in some way. Activity logs, pacing charts, check-ins, anything, texting, emails. All of those are evidence of a student being present, all right? So imagine you've got all of those things that can indicate little Joey is in class that day, right? And then you're doing it across a grade level with 4 different teachers. And they're all looking at all those criteria. They're asking teachers that may have worked with students in another setting, did you see that kid today in any of those criteria? Then imagine you're a PE teacher and you see every grade level, and you have to apply all of those moving parts. The record keeping is outrageous. It's a monster. And the time that our staff takes to get that done, to understand that data, to communicate, because that's the key. Without the communication, the thing dies and attendance data is totally skewed. They have to communicate constantly. We have Monday morning meetings where that's all they do. We have attendance teams that meet an attendance team with administrators, student services that meet twice a week for lengthy times, looking at referrals of students, how people are participating, applying interventions and supports to kids that need it. It's a monster piece of work. And although our attendance data absolutely isn't where it would be in face-to-face, I am so proud of my teachers for investing all the time and energy that they do, that it takes outside of preps, that it takes outside of their normal day to get that data right. And so that's another rose for us, because those things improve outcomes for us when attendance is maximally efficient. So my time is coming to an end here. So let me close by saying there are a lot of roses. There are many things I could talk about, but my time is running out. So let me just throw another shout out to my staff. I have a great staff at Aldrich. You know, as you think about fighting the good fight and the great work that we do, I would not want to go into battle with any other group of folks. It is a great staff. We work well together. And that's actually a great calling point of Aldrich. And another rose that's not in here is the way we treat one another and the way we support and love one another. So that's a great rose for us as a staff. Our families really benefit from that, and they work hard to work with us for the benefit of their students. So roses to them. Our students are working hard. And although the data isn't exactly where we want it, there are a lot of kids who are doing exactly what they need to do. And we're proud of them, and we praise them and their families for doing all they can to participate and get the most out of this setting. Thank you to the board for your leadership in so many ways. And finally, thank you, a rose to our current superintendent, Dr. Keyser. You know, I can speak for the other intermediate principals and say that never have we worked with someone who has been as responsive to what we've said, who actually listens to what we're telling him and wants to know what we think, and has changed things because of the input he's received from us. He's a caring, very caring, and you can see that when you work with him. We all feel that, and that is something that we need in days like this. So with roses to everyone and an apology to anybody I left out, thank you for this opportunity. And these are the things that work together to improve outcomes at Aldrich, and I'm proud to be the principal there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we move on with Dr. Cooper's report, I just wanted to open up the chat. Do board members have any questions or feedback for Mr. Rydross at this point? Sorry if I mispronounced your name.
That's right.
It's been a long day.
Yeah, you don't have that problem with your last name, I don't think.
All right, it doesn't look like we have any questions or comments from board members. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Board member J, go ahead.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to say kudos to Joe and to his entire staff. It's very exciting, and I'm especially pleased with the work that you guys are doing with, regarding poverty and learning about it and how best to meet each child's needs. So thank you so much, Mr. Rydogs. Great job.
Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate that. And, you know, again, thank you to the board for approving that training. It's been great.
Wonderful. Thanks. Any other board members have any thoughts or comments? All right. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time to put that together and to share with us. It was very exciting.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Have a good night, guys.
You too. And Dr. Keyser, back to you.
And my thanks, Joe. I appreciate all that you've shared, and I know that it's only just a small sliver of all the things that you're doing over there at Aldrich. So as I continue on with the superintendent's board report this evening, I will be sharing out. I was going to do this narratively, but then thought better of it that I needed talking points, otherwise I'd continue talking. So I felt it appropriate as I continue the board report tonight to provide a brief summary of the past couple of board meetings and the plan, my plans moving forward as I talk about small groups and reopening. So I take us back to just before winter break in December and presented to the board an update for the reopening plan initially approved in July. And the most significant change back then to the plan was the addition of a new choice for families if the district was to shift to in-person instruction. That new choice would allow families to remain in distance learning and not be required to transfer to Beloit Virtual School if the district were to transition from 100% distance learning. At that time, my recommendations provided an option to explore in-person instruction if the board desired while continuing in distance learning going into term 3. As that meeting was ending, a motion was made to transition to in-person instruction at the beginning February 1st. Based upon that potential timeline at the end of that December board meeting, I directed the district staff to work with principals to finish preparing schools based on that potential timeline. And after winter break at the January board meeting, we heard from over 100 individuals in public comments, both for and against this potential transition on February 1st. In the end, the decision was made to continue in distance learning for term 3. And so tonight and over the next couple of board meetings, I plan to share during my informational board reports all the work and planning that has been and continues to be done in preparations for a potential transition to in-person. Tonight, the pieces that I'm going to touch upon and include the conversations about where we are with small groups is the cohort model, the staff and student devices, this new format, which I've called simulcasting, and actually the kind of industry lingo seems to be concurrent, so we're transitioning our language to concurrent professional development training and concurrent learning technologies. Talk about cleaning and safety and health protocols and products, and then end talking about what the small groups we have had in the schools, and then the plans moving forward before closing out with some communications. So what's this cohort model that we're talking about? Originally in July, when we were talking about building the model, we were assuming that all students would either attend in person or be in distance learning. But once the decision was made back in July to be in distance learning, we continued to plan, and I directed our facilities staff to meet with all the principals and walk through their buildings and determine their capacity for students based on the CDC and Rock County Health guidelines. Once it was determined that at least if one school couldn't handle 100% capacity, we could not go with having 100% of our students go in person if that was the direction we went. So we had to develop a cohort model. After hearing lots of different ideas from principals on how we could cohort students, the plan that we've developed moving forward is based on having 2 groups. And so the cohort model that we're talking about really has a structural framework where we'd have 2 groups, a cohort A and a cohort B, where cohort A would be attending in person Monday and Tuesday, while cohort B would be learning from home in this concurrent learning model. And then after our Wednesdays being the same, we would flip-flop and cohort B would transition in to be in person at the latter half of the week. And the first group would be in concurrent learning. After hearing concerns about student access to the digital content, I leveraged the governor's funding for technology and as well as the federal funding and asked for us to start to purchase new devices for our students, mainly prioritizing our students who were deciding to be in Beloit Virtual School, as well as students who are accessing tech ed classes that used software that could not be run on iPads. So at that time, we had purchased in August 1,600 Chromebooks. At that time, we knew that there was a run on devices. And so up to this date, we have 360 Chromebooks that have been delivered to Beloit Memorial and are currently being prepared to be distributed to students. Again, prioritizing students who are in Beloit Virtual School as well as some of the students who are in CTE courses that need that. What I found out just prior to this board meeting was that the remainder of that 1,600 Chromebook order will be here within the next 2 weeks, and so we'll be able to continue to roll out Chromebooks to our high school students. In addition, during our transition this year across terms 1 and 2, the idea of having a support center up at the Beloit Public Library was hatched. And working with the Beloit Public Library and Nick DeMassis, we continue to have weekly support up there. While it has ebbed and flowed, we have committed to continuing this even if we were to transition to in-person, simply because it is an additional touch point for our community to get help and support. In addition, as we started the year, we recognized from getting feedback from the buildings that there was an additional need for not just devices, but access to internet. So again, based on that feedback and leveraging those funds that were given to the district from both the state and the federal government, we purchased over 200 hotspots. Purchased 26 through US Cellular and another 200 from T-Mobile. At this time, we have all but 44 out in households. And the way that we distribute this is through parents reaching out and schools reaching out to families. And when a family is in need, that information gets routed to the district office, and then we can deploy hotspots out to families. When families no longer need them, they return them to the school, they get returned, and they can be reallocated back out to another family that's in need. Our plan and goal moving forward is that we've purchased these hotspots, so we have a contract with them, and after this pandemic is over, we would still have these as potential supports for students moving forward, because to quote one administrator, we can't go back. We are planning forward, and we'll continue to leverage all the technology that we have. Along with the devices, we recognized that there was a need for staff refresh. Because we were going to be starting the year off with distance learning, we wanted to make sure that our staff had the devices that would help and support their instruction moving forward. So 653 new MacBook Airs were delivered and distributed to teaching staff. And shortly thereafter, we worked with our vendors to purchase 50 HP Windows laptops to be used by our secretaries, so that the secretaries would have full access to all of their files, even if they had to work remotely. And so knowing that we were going to have times when we were in buildings and the potential that we would have to work from home, we wanted to make sure that we maximize the flexibility, not just for our teaching staff, but for all of our support staff. What did we do with the desktops that the secretaries were using? We actually took those laptops and we redistributed them and repurposed them for student labs so that we could upgrade the desktops that we're using primarily for our CT and Academy courses, that we're using high-powered software that just were maxing out our old desktops. But the laptops or the desktops that we repurposed now can run those programs. When we were making the decision around the concurrent instruction back in December, one of the things that we wanted to do, and under my supervision, was determine exactly what types of equipment would staff need for this concurrent learning. And so the teaching and learning team reached out to all of our staff across all of our 12 buildings and asked them, what kinds of equipment do you have, and what kind of equipment would you need in order to help build out concurrent learning? And so what we figured out from December through winter break was that each teaching staff needed a wireless lapel microphone because there was the potential of walking around their classroom but still needing to transmit their voice over the internet. We needed a tripod in which we could hold a device that would project the whiteboard or hold their teaching device as they moved around the room and taught. And they also needed a second device, one device for them to use for instruction, and then one device for our students who would be concurrently learning from home and logging into the classroom. So all of this was done in the time from December 15th to the winter break, and an order was placed. All of this equipment came in, and so what we have been deploying since coming out of winter break has been this equipment. You can see a picture of what the wireless lapel mics look like. You can see the tripod, which at first I thought was a musical tripod for holding music, and my mistake when I first saw the picture. And then a device, choice of the device. So staff could either use their iPads or we could repurpose some of our Chromebooks to provide a secondary device. In addition, there was a clear call that we could use some additional power strips, so each teaching staff member is going to get this piece, and it's currently being distributed out to our buildings. Along with all the devices, we needed to develop a way that we would help support our staff in learning what does it look like and feel like when we talk about concurrent learning or learning with people in front of you as well as people online. And so here is a district level view of not only the equipment distribution but also the training schedule. From the decision that was made in earlier this month, this schedule was adjusted to take full advantage of the additional time that we were going to be in distance learning. So while we began distributing equipment on January 19th and will end this coming Tuesday, we're implementing a train the trainer model as well as follow-up PD and support for each and every building. So the train the trainer model started on would have started today, started yesterday, and would have continued today, and end on Tuesday the 9th. And then we would begin wrapping around our staff a second time, beginning in or towards the end of February, and then continue on into early March. So kudos to the teaching and learning team and the principals for working collaboratively to create the time and the space for not only making sure all of the teaching staff have the equipment, but also have 2 opportunities to get some training. And with the train the trainer model, we have the content experts that are in each of the buildings to help support the staff when they have questions. So I spent a lot about the devices that support a cohort and concurrent teaching model. But there were things that had to happen before our staff even came into the buildings this year. So in order for our staff to return in August, the safety and cleaning needs had to be put in place. Currently, we have dozens of cleaning products that we use on a day-to-day basis. But since last March, we had to ensure that we had products that were effective against the the COVID-19 virus. Airmark provides products from Diversity and Ecolabs that meet this threshold. But in addition to the Airmark cleaning products, we felt it important that we would supplement those products in each of our schools with some of the products that we've purchased. So we currently purchased 14 electrostatic sprayers. This is what we call the Clorox 360s, and disinfectant. And it's important to know that this disinfectant is a food grade level disinfectant, meaning that when you spray it on surfaces, it's food safe, and it's not going to be harmful to humans, animals, and so forth if you eat off of it. In addition, we have the TB Cyquat, which, as they explained it to me, this gets everything. It is used regularly in hospitals, clinics, and nursing homes as their primary cleaning product. So in addition to the products that Airmark provides to all of our buildings, we've supplemented it with this. It was my expectation that not only did we use these products on a regular basis, but that we had a coherent system and structure that was put in place. So I met with facilities and requested that a protocol for maintaining a clean building be put in place before our staff and students returned. And so facilities responded to my request with a 7-step protocol that they've implemented in each of the buildings. And this has been in place since the start of the school year. We had the protocol that all of our Airmark staff follow outlines exactly how they need to walk through the school, every classroom, bathroom, kitchen, cafeteria, gymnasium, weight room, office, so forth. We also have the building facility staff. They have their protocols that are ensuring that hand sanitizer, soap, towels, toilet papers are replenished on a daily basis. They have to check those, and even if they've just replaced it, they have to go back through and make sure that we do a check at the end of the day. We also, for our staff and student return, made sure that all of our classrooms, office, and common areas had hand sanitizer available. And we also required that the custodial staff wear gloves and masks at all times when they're working through the buildings. When we presented our original plan, our initial plan in July, my plan mandated that we would have face coverings. There's no waiver on this. Masks will be required by staff, students, and all others. And when I mean all others, I'm really talking about the contractors who may be in our buildings. If a health inspector or a fire inspector comes into our buildings to do spot checks, or if we have our utility service personnel that come in from time to time, we ensure that all of them are wearing masks. Additionally, we've made sure that the personal protective equipment, or what we call PPE, is distributed to all of our buildings. So each of our buildings across this school year, we've sent out adult masks, youth masks, non-traditional masks, which I'll speak more to in just a minute, which are the Clearview and the Badger Shield Plus, as well as gloves and gowns. I wanted to make sure that people understood that not every staff member needs all of this personal protective equipment. However, it's available in the buildings so that depending on the needs, it is available so that they could make adjustments. For example, school nurses and health room assistants, they may be wearing masks and gloves, but there might be times when they need to wear a gown. And so having those out in the buildings and available allows them that flexibility to have the equipment that they need to do their jobs. What you see here is two pictures. What on the left-hand side is a picture of the Badger Mask Plus. It's basically a face shield with a chin covering so that it's an enclosed space here. And then on the other side is a traditional looking mask, but the center part's been replaced with a clear plastic shield. These are unique and purchased to assist our students who may be deaf and hard of hearing, need speech and language services, or are in early childhood. These are areas in which it's important for students to see the staff's mouth and be able to see their lips in the formation of words and letter combinations. Additionally, we purchased, under my direction, plexiglass. We know that a lot of our schools, a lot of our classrooms have tables in them, and we didn't want to have to discard the tables and try to get individual desks into all these spaces. So we researched, and business and facilities purchased plexiglass for all of our buildings. Originally, when it came in, we stored them centrally, but since December, we've moved them out to our buildings, and they are currently being stored in each of our sites. What you see here is a picture from Robinson, where you can see how these plexiglass shields could be arranged on different desktops to provide an extra level of protection. Mind you, our students will always be wearing masks. This provides an extra layer of protection by putting this plexiglass around them. So if the decision were to be made to move to in-person, it can be deployed very easily and quickly now that all of these are in each of the buildings. Our protocols. So not only do we have our protocols in our buildings that we've been performing daily since our staff have come back, we've also been doing our health screenings. Everyone is required to complete a daily screener prior to entering the buildings. Now, currently, our staff are the only ones who have to do the screeners, but we have screeners already set up for students, athletes, and our other essential workers. Again, those could be our contractors that might be working in the buildings, a fire marshal who comes in, or even a utility worker who has to come in and do some work. We also have disposable masks for any individual who may come into our building and forget their masks. Screeners are able to be accessed through multiple entry points. They can use their phone and scan a QR code. They can, if they have the SDB app, they can get it on there. They have it on their calendars as a calendar invite, and it's also accessible on our Safer to Learn website. So we've tried to think of all the places in which individuals may need to access that screener. So I talked a lot about the time and detail we spent around health and safety protocols and inventory that we've put in our buildings in the event that we would transition. But it's important to know that as much as is in the buildings, we have a lot that we have in inventory and warehoused for the event that we start to transition. So I'm not going to read through all of these bullet points, but over and above what I just mentioned is in our buildings, we have centrally stored hand sanitizer, surface disinfectant, Total 360. This is the food grade disinfectant that I mentioned with the Clorox 360s. 19,000, almost 20,000 youth masks, as well as high volume wipes. These are the wipes specifically designed for wiping down equipment such as weight rooms, tech ed equipment, and so forth. All of these are available, and we have vendors lined up that if we start to have to send these out to the buildings, we can purchase and procure more of them as needed. So what about our students and the small groups? Well, currently, those only students that we've been allowing into our buildings are students with special needs. Initially, we had students who needed assessments, either for initial eligibility evaluation or 3-year eligibility evaluations. But we did find through our IEP team meetings that there were some services that was deemed necessary and could only be provided in person. It is this group and this group only that has been in our buildings since the start of the school year. With the opening up of small group assignments or small group supports, I've reached out last week to the principals and solicited their feedback on what groups they've identified and would prioritize for bringing in first. And after collecting all of that on Monday, I will be working to communicate out to principals over the rest of this week and early next week the next step protocols for getting these small groups up and running. We will make sure that as we start these small groups, we are following all of the same protocols that I just mentioned, and that, again, we have the PPE, the personal protective equipment, out in the buildings, so if there's an adjustment that needs to be made and individuals or principals need to make those adjustments, they have the equipment in-house so that they can do that. And if they run low or need more, they can reach out to facilities, and we have some in our warehouse. So to close out, one of the things I wanted to share is that through the feedback in the board meetings from our, as well as from my time with the administrators, there needs to be more communication. And certainly I've been communicating out through my weekly newsletters and the webinars that I have scheduled and family surveys, but there needs to be an additional layer that has to be developed. And so working with Monica, I am developing internal communications, which I launched last week. So internally, we'll be communicating via a staff website that's going to be updated regularly with a bi-monthly newsletter, as well as weekly video updates by myself and others, just making sure that all staff have access to all of the information. That isn't to say that I'm not going to be continuing to meet and communicate through the normal channels. I still will meet weekly with administration directors and principals. I have my monthly meetings with the BEA, and I am planning a staff webinar in early March to provide some more updates and collect more feedback. I just want to make sure that as I share out, I wanted to communicate out the things that we have in place and things that have been planned for and are currently going. Future topics that I plan to address in the next superintendent's update include instruction, food service, staffing, and metrics. So those are topics that you did not hear tonight, but are topics that will be coming in a future superintendent's board update. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really thorough, and I think it provided a lot of very interesting insights into what's going on. It's much appreciated. And at this time, I would like to offer any board members that have any questions or comments to please utilize the chat box, beginning with Board Member Levy.
Thank you. Today, the State Senate voted to end the statewide mask mandate. And this passed the Senate with an 18-13 vote. To my understanding, it's going to be taken up by the Assembly on Thursday. If that measure was to pass to end the mandate of statewide mask wearing, are you prepared to propose something to the board in the form of policy under the direction, of course, of legal, to make sure that we can maintain those mask mandates within our building?
That's a great question, Board Member Levy. One of the very first topics that superintendents tackled at the beginning of the school year was this idea of mask mandates. Certainly can address it through formal policy, but administration has the discretion to adjust the rules by which staff, students, and visitors would conduct themselves while in buildings. So the fact that we've already said publicly and have approved a plan that includes mandatory masks, we are completely covered from a legal standpoint.
So that has already been run, just to be clear, that's already been run past our legal counsel, that specific concern of mandating a mask mandate if the state mandate was to no longer be in place? Correct.
Legally, we are on firm ground. By us simply having that conversation back in July, we are covered legally.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Board Member Levy. Board Member Jacobs?
Wow, very impressive, Dr. Kieser. Lots and lots of questions answered. I thank you for this presentation. My mind could have been wandering, and I do apologize because I was thinking of other things as you were talking, all related, of course. But when you mentioned small groups, is that, I understand we've got our special ed babies right now. Are you thinking of bringing in groups, small groups based on needs that can you just speak a little bit more about the special groups, I guess I'm asking?
Certainly. So where I started after the last board meeting was I reached out to our principals and asked for them to work with their staff and identify their priority list so that we could, certainly at the district level we had thought about that, but that was our thinking at the district level. What I asked the principals to do is give me their list so that now that we have that, we know which small groups we want to move forward with, and now it's just a matter of communicating the protocol and the next steps moving forward.
Okay, thank you. So then we will be having, that's exciting then, we'll be having some small groups coming in of our neediest of needy is what I'm hearing.
Correct.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you for the questions. Are there any other questions from board members at this time before we move on in our agenda? Okay, hearing none, thank you again very much for the presentation, Dr. Kieser. That brings us to agenda item number 6, which is the business agenda and action items, where I believe we have a report coming on the athletic and extracurricular plan.
Yes, so tonight I have Ms. Pels and Mr. Beard presenting on athletics and extracurriculars. Now, as a preface to the presentation, and you're going to hear a lot about the athletics side of things, and it's intentional because there is a lot that goes into running practices and competitions and so forth. Note that these same practices and protocols are going to be the same practices and protocols that extracurriculars would be following. And so it isn't that we didn't include or exclude extracurriculars. It's the same practices and protocols. And so feel free that if you have questions to ask those at the end of the presentation. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Pels and Mr. Beard.
Thank you.
All right, can you guys hear me? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, we hear you great.
All right, that's sweet. My camera's acting up, and I think I need to share the presentation, so I'm just going to keep my camera off.
Yes, that's fine.
We also have Ms. Smith, Ms. Carla Smith here, our school nurse. So she'll be able to answer some questions at the end of this presentation as well. Let me make sure I got this going here. Oh boy, okay, there we go.
While Mr. Beard's getting that up, I'll also interject and say that we have Mr. Chris Behrens with us too tonight to go over, if necessary, the process that he took to prepare for extracurriculars in the music area.
Awesome. Okay, so I believe we're all good, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All good.
So, all good. All right. So thank you very much for allowing us to have the opportunity to talk about athletics and activities tonight. It is our goal to present a plan for meaningful opportunities in athletics and activities. It's a collaboration between our coaches and some parents, our teachers, and administration. So I thank you again for the opportunity to present this, and looking forward to talking more in depth about athletics and activities. So with that, I'd like to get started here with our first slide. This is our athletic approach, and when you're talking about when you're dealing with the WIA and the things that we need to have prepared for our teams, we're talking a virtual coaching model, a plan for open gym and contact, for conducting practices and for conducting competitions. So we need to make sure that we're prepared in all four of these areas in order for us to have the safest possible athletic season moving forward. So virtual coaching, obviously that's through the computer, and our coaches have been instructed to have a plan if needed to move into virtual coaching at any point during their season, and we will have that plan, and coaches are working through that to make sure we keep our students engaged and also provide a possibility for a student if they're not able to be in person, to make sure they know what's going on and stay in touch with the team. The open gym and contact part is an area where coaches are allowed to bring their students in, the contact, and have coaching interaction with their students at that time. And they're a little bit unstructured as far as coaching is concerned when the open gyms are, but the contact days are more conducted as practices. And at this point is most likely to be in cohorts, so that we can maintain the numbers of the groups in the open gym sessions. The weight room, it will be allowed to be used following disinfecting protocols. We'll keep those contact days to no more than 3 days per week. And if there's an opportunity for us to use an outdoor facility, we will use those as much as possible. So moving into the season, obviously these are only teams that are in season at that time, preparing for competition. These are full team practices with skill development, and the weight room is available as well, following disinfectant protocols. And obviously when we move into the competition, that's where we'll provide the transportation. Some locker room usage will be allowed with the swimming program, and again, only teams that are in person. We have specific areas where the student athletes will be allowed to enter and exit the building, depending on the facility that they're using. For the pool, they will be using entrance door 8 and exit door 11. Those are down by the pool. Field house is door 5 and 6, which are located actually in the field house. Bark and arena doors for the weight room usage. Wrestling room will be using a hallway of the high school, which is door 3, and the weight room would use door 4. Coaches must keep attendance records electronically that I will keep. We'll have a Google document for that. No locker room usage for practice, especially. Masks are required at all times inside the building. Student athletes will wear masks, and coaches will wear masks. and all activities, especially open gyms and practices, must occur after the school day. Our general guidelines are what everyone will follow. Maintain our physical distancing whenever possible. So student athletes and coaches will maintain 6 feet of social distancing to the fullest extent possible. Exceptions for physical distancing will be for competitions only. Face coverings are all required. Again, like we mentioned before, all coaches and supporting personnel will wear masks at all times. Student athletes will wear masks at all times. Cleaning and sanitizing is an important part of it. Equipment will be cleaned, especially in the weight room in between use. With balls, especially basketballs and volleyballs, we'll try to keep the individuals with the balls so we don't have to change or constantly wipe down balls, and then they will be cleaned thoroughly after the practice is complete. Each student athlete must fill out the student athlete screener each day, along with all coaches and all participants. Any person who screens out will not be allowed to participate in the activities until the school nurse allows them to come back. So students and coaches are required to stay at home if sick, exhibiting any symptoms, and have had exposure to COVID-19. Academic eligibility. This has been a big question for us, and how we're going to use our academic eligibility. Our thought is that we will allow any student who would like to participate in activities in athletics will be allowed to do so at the beginning of their season. With the seasons being condensed so much, to give you an idea of what we're looking at here, we're putting a whole year's worth of sports into 2 terms, pretty much. So to keep the connection between student and athlete, we will check grades every 2 weeks. For term 3, our grades checks will be starting February 19th, and then we would check it every 2 weeks after that. And if a student were to fail 1 or more classes at the 2-week grade period, they would have to sit out for 1 week, which would be the following week, and until their grades become eligible. Once their grades become eligible, they will be able to return to competitions. During that time, a student will be able to practice. If there's a home event, they'll be able to sit on a bench. The only thing they will not be able to do will be travel with the team if there was a away event that following week. If a student has not raised their grades to an acceptable level, we'll just continue to monitor those grades, and the student will have to sit out the following week until we get those grades up to where we need to be. So we're passing all courses. Our practice and procedures and schedules. Again, coaches and student athletes will wear masks at all times. Student athletes will be assigned a socially distant location to put belongings during practice. This is important because it will also serve as a place for a student athlete to have a mask break if they need to during practice, to catch their breath, or just to settle down a little bit, or whatever they need it to be, or get a drink of water. We've designated those areas in each facility. Bark and Arena will use the perimeter of all courts. So that's along the bleachers on all sides of Bark and Arena. Fieldhouse 1 and 2, we can pull out the west bleachers, and we'll mark off spots that are 6 feet apart that each student could use that are using Fieldhouse courts 1 and 2. And we'll also use the north wall. The north wall is the wall that is on the side of the swimming pool, and we'll mark those places out as well. And the same thing for Fieldhouse 3 and 4. We'll use the east bleachers and the north wall as well. Again, locker rooms are not available during practices with the exception of swimming locker rooms. And that is, the locker rooms will be used for swim, is where they will be allowed to put their belongings while they're in practice, and we'll mark those spots off. We're going to utilize both locker rooms for swim in order to maximize the space that we have for the team. We have developed a facility usage schedule for our practice and contact days. to make sure that we know where every team is at each moment of practice each day. All of our practices will be 90 minutes with 30 minutes in between to transition to the next group. We'll adjust that time for a group like volleyball because after volleyball, they have to take nets down and all those things. So we may have to adjust for that and to clean all the equipment in between before the next group comes in. And in the weight room, all equipment will be cleaned in between usage and then cleaned at the end of the session. For our home competitions, we will, before the game, I will set up chairs that are socially distanced on the sideline. We will use our normal sideline that we do for our home competitions. I believe that is the south side of Barkin Arena, if we're in Barkin. And we'll keep those bleachers in, so we'll have plenty of space to socially distance our chairs. And the players will be assigned a seat in the gym. So they'll know where to put their stuff, where they'll sit, and water bottles and everything like that. Our score tables will also be socially distanced. We're fortunate to have a 12-foot score table. So with the personnel that we need for the game, we will definitely have more than enough space for them to be socially distanced at the score table as well. And all game personnel will be required to wear a mask upon building entry and exiting the building. They will also have to fill out the screener as well. The game balls will be sanitized and rotated at the official's discretion. So once a game starts, the officials are in control, and if they feel at any time that a ball needs to be wiped down or exchange of balls, that is their discretion to do that. I've also talked to a few ADs about how they've conducted their events over the fall and the winter with the game balls, especially warm-ups. That is what they've done is they've separated their balls, and one team has a group of balls and the other team has another, and they never cross over. So the game ball is kept out of that rotation just to minimize as much as possible. Also for home competitions, we will not allow spectators at Beloit Memorial High School, other than the individuals that are deemed essential per the Big 8 Conference and Beloit Memorial High School guidelines. All games will be streamed live on our YouTube channel, which I think will be great. Media, we will allow up to 3 members. We got to 3 members because we do have a photographer that is very good to our student athletes and our athletic department in general, and Tim Moore. So having the opportunity to archive our games with pictures is important for our kids, especially at this time. Also, a representative from the Beloit Daily News if they choose to cover the event, and then 1 member from the visiting team's media outlets if they so choose to attend the event. They must be cleared 24 hours before the game and also complete the screener on the day of the event and prior to the start of the event. We will not have concessions during our events. Athletes should have their own personal water bottles and towels, etc. The visiting team will be escorted to and from the front entry, where doors will be propped open to and from their bus. The WIA requires that the visiting coaches and our coaches, if we were to travel, to complete an event requirement and the WIA checklist. Those 2 forms is another screener that our coaches have to ask our student athletes before they board the bus. They also have to take their temperature before they board the bus. And the event requirement form is a form that I have to sign off as the athletic director, and the coach also has to sign off on that sheet as well. And that is turned into the other school's athletic director upon arrival at the school. So that is the WIA's requirements and checklists that each school has to follow before an event. Transportation. Talking with Durham Bus Company, there's a maximum of 24 passengers We typically have roster size of 12 to 18, with the exception of track and football, whose rosters are much bigger. So one bus per level, varsity, JV, freshman, with a maximum of 24 passengers is the safest route for us to go. So on average, we take about 2 buses to an away event. This would move that to 3 or 4 buses per competition. So that would increase that when it comes to transportation. And Durham Bus Company has informed me of their protocols that the bus will be cleaned before our students get on the bus. Once they drop the students off at their destination, they will clean it again. The students will get back on, come back home, and then the bus company or the bus driver will clean the bus again. That is the protocols that were described to us, and feel pretty comfortable with that. All right, our WIA winter dates, we are approaching the end of the winter season right now. Well, the tournament series will be starting here in a couple weeks. If we were to start our sports and restart our sports, February 1st would hopefully be our start date for our winter sports, to allow them to have the opportunity to practice and get together and do some things. Boys hockey and girls hockey have opted out of that option. They are participating in club hockey, most of those girls are, and they will remain in that instead of practicing, so that they will finish out some competitions that way. Girls basketball and boys basketball would be allowed to practice if they so choose, along with wrestling. Boys swim season will be complete next week, with the state tournament being February 5th. Per WIA rules, teams are allowed to practice all the way through the state tournament. So girls basketball, boys basketball will be allowed to do that. We are cutting that down to February 20th to allow to free up the gym space for volleyball, which will begin February 22nd. And that will be, and actually girls swim is February 8th. That will be the beginning of our fall sports. And as you can see, the dates, we start rolling those out through the month of March, and boys and girls volleyball will get started February 22nd. And moving through that, our spring sports will get started April 19th, for the most part, for track, softball, baseball, and boys golf, with girls soccer starting April 26th and boys tennis starting May 3rd. I'll go back to the alternate fall dates. This season is significantly compressed because it was fit in between the winter and spring sports. So this will be about a 7 to 8 week season for these teams. And we're looking at possibly just playing our conference schools, if that's a possibility. But there will be some definitely rearranging of schedules for our alternate fall dates, and our coaches are working on that, and we're working on that in anticipation of starting that, having the alternate fall season. So those are our dates for our sports this season. Do you have any questions? I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you very much for that presentation and for taking the time to put it together. Before we get started, would somebody like to make a motion to waive Board Policy 171 that requires us to continuously kind of re-up our time so we don't have that distraction and disrupt our speakers?
I move to extend the meeting, and can we do it for 2 times? Is that?
Actually, Board Member Wong, if you want, you could make a motion to waive Policy 171, and then we don't actually have to do that this meeting.
Okay, move to waive Policy 171 for this meeting.
I second. Oh, sorry. Board Member Wong, I second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to waive Board Policy 171 that sets the 2-hour time limit. Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Having said that, thank you very much. Director Beard, for your presentation. And I have 4 board members kind of in the queue to ask questions. In the order of board members Wong, Levy, Jacobson, Anderson. At that time, Board Member Delgado, I'm going to go to you after Board Member Anderson anyway, so that everybody has an opportunity to ask a question or make a comment before we move forward. All right. So why don't you go ahead, Board Member Wong.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Beard, for that presentation. And Ms. Pels, I'm guessing there was a lot of people involved in the collaboration of all the material. And trying to cram an entire year's sporting events into a few months is going to be challenging, but I'm sure that all the kids will appreciate it a ton. My question is pretty simple, and it revolves around testing. And if there's a possibility at all, if kids or parents or anybody screens in a situation, do we have the ability to have testing done so that maybe we can catch situations before they would begin to spread further?
This is Mrs. Smith, the nurse. I will take that question. So we would highly encourage the individual who would screen out with COVID-like symptoms to go get tested. There are a lot of resources within the community where they can access that for free. CVS, all of their sites in the city offer that, and usually you can get in a pretty timely manner. Our plan would be to, whatever group is affected by that potential student would be then, no more practices would be held until we're able to determine contact tracing and verifying that that student isn't truly positive, to make sure that everybody in that cohort is as safe as possible and not increasing that risk of exposure to other members on the team who may just not be symptomatic yet.
Does that address your question, Board Member Wong?
It does. I'm curious, is it possible, and I know serving on the Health System Board, the availability to test that would be available, and I'm curious to know if that is a possibility at all, to potentially have tests available so that we wouldn't have to send people off and say, okay, go have this done, if it was done by a nurse and a professional that would be able to administer that.
Currently, Board Member Wong, Michelle Babelius has reached out to the Beloit Health Systems and asked that question about, one, the availability and training for our staff to do that. So while it's not something we have available currently, if it were to become available to us, it would be something that our school nurses would then be able to use it as a tool.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are you good, Board Member Wong? Okay. All right. Next in line is Board Member Levy, followed by Board Member Jacobs.
So just a little bit of a clarification from Board Member Wong's question. So a student, let's say that a student, because they can't get access for whatever reason to a COVID-19 test, is the criteria for a nurse approving their re-entry to athletics or extracurriculars a negative COVID test? And if yes, that student wouldn't be able to return without one. Is that accurate?
We would follow the Rock County Department guidelines, which would determine if they did have a test done. Obviously, we would follow whatever those results were to provide guidance. If they, for whatever reason, decided they did not want to get tested or didn't have access to get testing, we would have to keep them out for the full 10 days that the Rock County currently has the guidelines for from the start of their symptoms. And then that group would probably then be held out for 14 days, depending on the situation. It would be very situational based on that particular situation.
Thank you for that clarification. So that leads me to, I know that it's possible to test positive for COVID-19, and then you go beyond that 14-day period and you are still positive.
Correct. You would only be considered contagious for roughly 10 days is what the science shows. So you could potentially test positive for months, but you wouldn't be shedding the virus still to put others at risk.
Okay. So I'm assuming that discussion, Joel, has been had, and we would be comfortable with a student even if they remain positive for COVID-19, but they're out of that shedding window, that it would be okay for them to return to activities?
Yes, because we would follow the Rock County Health Department guidelines for that student.
Okay. And then my second question, which is similar, is that it says that media has to be cleared 24 hours before. What does that mean? They just need to pass the screener. They have to show proof of a negative COVID-19 test. And if it is just the screener, do we have concerns about asymptomatic carriers having access to games?
The 24-hour period will allow me to, so that I know that they will be coming to the event. What has happened in the past is, I put that in there because they will tell me the day before, or the day of, sorry, and that's just too quick for us to get things done. So I need to make sure that 24 hours gives me enough time to make sure we are prepared for media to be in the facility for that event. The day of, they do have to fill out the screener, and if there are any symptoms, then they will not be allowed to come to the event that night. Did I answer it?
Yes, you did answer the question. My concern is, let's just say you have a media participant who is COVID-19 positive, but they're asymptomatic. It doesn't seem like there would be something that would bar them from access to the facility. But really, I guess that sounds like that's a concern across the board. Since we aren't doing testing, it's just the symptom screener, correct?
Correct. Yep, and that would be the case with even the student athletes or the coaches as well, possibly being asymptomatic and positive, which would be why we, have the social distancing, the masks, the hand sanitizer, the sanitization of the equipment, just to do as much as we can to prevent that.
And then my final question, is there some type of waiver for students and coaches that do want to participate, saying that these are the things that we're going to put in place, but understand that there could be spread by asymptomatic people? Is there some type of student or parent waiver?
Yes, there is. Yes. Dr. Keyser has presented that to me. Was that last fall, Dr. Keyser?
That is correct. So we worked with our legal department to rewrite the waiver to include specific language about COVID-19 and the fact that they are participating in an activity that puts them at a closer contact than typically in normal situations.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Board Member Jacobs, followed by Board Member Anderson.
Hi, thank you so much, Mr. Beard, Ms. Smith, Ms. Pels, and whomever else that was involved, in Dr. Keyser, everyone else that prepared this and put so much time and effort into it. And I feel a little funny asking this question, but I am curious, since we've had so many staff that are hesitant for in-class. Mr. Beard, are there any coaches that are declining at this time, or is everybody feeling pretty much, yeah, let's do it?
For the most part, everyone is feeling, yeah, let's do it. I surveyed the coaches last week about their thoughts. We did have one coach that said that they did not want to participate if we were to return back in sports. But we were, the three questions were, would you return if we were to come back? Would you have a problem wearing a mask while you were coaching? And if you had a problem, if any concerns with cleaning equipment in between, we were, 95% wanted to return and wanted to coach if we were able to. And there were 88% didn't have a problem wearing a mask while coaching. We had a couple maybes. We had one no. And then we had about the same 88%, 90% saying that they didn't have any issues or concerns with cleaning equipment and after practices and competitions.
Okay, so does that mean we have enough coaches then, with the ones that want to?
We absolutely have enough coaches.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Jacobs. Board Member Anderson, followed by Board Member Delgado, please.
First, I want to say thank you very much for this presentation. I know you guys put a lot of work into this. The first question I have is, so when is the proposed start date of all of this? for students to return back to sports?
The proposed start date would be February 1st, would be to move into some open gyms and contacts, especially for our girl swimmers. They have not been in the pool in a while. That will give them a week before their season would officially start on February 8th. To get back into the water, we would start with our protocols and getting them used to that, and we would slowly move into that starting February 1st. February 1st, and we would have a fall sport meeting February 1st, Monday night at 7 o'clock. Our coaches are ready to go if that were the case, and we would start talking about all the things we need to do and getting ready next week so that we could start girls swimming February 8th.
Great. And then my last question I have for you is, what's the position right now on middle school sports?
Great question. Thank you for that. I met with our intermediate principals last week and our athletic supervisors at the intermediate schools. We have a very solid tentative plan right now for if we were to return to in-person schooling, where we would run camps at the individual schools. We would not bus the students from school to school or anything like that, but we would provide the opportunities right there at their school in a few sports. And at that time, if it's fourth term, hopefully the weather is allowing us to get outside and do a few of those sports to keep them involved in 2-week periods. So, for example, we would have volleyball would be one. We would do basketball outside. We figured that each school has basketball hoops, so we would actually do basketball camps outside. We could do a soccer camp outside for 2 weeks, and we're looking at hiring the coaches that we're supposed to be coaching at the intermediate and giving them an opportunity, or teachers in the buildings right now the opportunity to help coach those sports, and also include the high school sports or high school coaches as well in that plan. So we are definitely on the move with trying to incorporate the intermediates and giving them the opportunity to participate in sports and activities as well.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you both. Board Member Delgado.
Good evening to everyone. Thank you so much for the presentation. I really appreciate all the information you guys provided. I do have a question regarding athletics. So what would happen if we didn't get enough participation from students? Would we still be able to participate with any of the remaining sports competitions and that are scheduled?
Great question. If we didn't have enough students to participate, then we would definitely look at our season and seeing if we're not allowed, if we don't have the team to field the team let me start over. Okay, so if we don't have enough students to have a team, we would look into recruiting or what are our numbers and see if we can still possibly do that. And if we had to cancel the season, then we probably would have to do that as far as competitions are concerned, but we would still want to have the practices and the engagement of that sport of the kids that wanted to participate. So if we're not able to field a team, we'll still find a way to keep them involved and engaged in that sport.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And then another question, not necessarily related to athletics, but I am also interested in hearing about like any other activities that this plan contains, like for instance, theater, music, choir. What about those plans? What are the plans for those activities?
We met last week with Mr. Behrens and Mr. Anderson and Ms. Filipiak. They have an extensive amount of knowledge in that area, so I'm going to ask Mr. Behrens to answer that question because we have a pretty solid plan, but they're definitely in the lead on that one.
Thank you.
Mr. Behrens, you still there? There he is.
I sure am still here. Thank you for inviting me to participate in this discussion tonight. Yeah, so we've actually been working on a plan to have some of our ensembles meet and rehearse. We started working on this actually back in the fall, looking at possibly doing something off-site, but due to the rapid increase of the infection and stuff, we were not able to do that. But because, I mean, we had looked at it ahead of time, we do have a lot of details, you know, things ready to go for when an opportunity did present itself like it is possibly now. So the biggest thing with music and choir, well, I'll start with orchestra, because orchestra, I mean, they pretty much just need to be socially, you know, 6 feet apart, socially distanced, wear a mask. Obviously, they're not blowing anything around or singing or projecting anything. So they're pretty easy to handle, just, you know, dealing with the spacing. Now, it's a little trickier when it comes to wind instruments, for example. There's been a lot of research done starting last summer. You can look up the studies yourself. University of Colorado Boulder, Maryland University, University of Minnesota, some studies in Germany that have all examined how aerosols spread from playing an instrument. And what they basically all determined was that by the use of a bell cover, and I have a trumpet here with me, so the trumpet is at the end here, but having a specially fit bell cover for each instrument, and then having a face mask with a slit that's kind of overlapping, those two things, they found that by doing those two things that the spread of aerosol is greatly contained. So, and speaking with countless band directors from across the country, including some nearby here in Janesville and Hononegah High School, and I just spoke to the one over at Badger High School. They've all been following this advice, and they have had zero issues with any kind of infection or spread due to playing of a musical instrument. With choir, it's just wearing a face mask, and they have specially made face masks that how do I describe this? That move them off the face a little bit, but still, they're still covering the face. I don't know how to explain it. Mr. Anderson will be able to do the better job than I am. But with those, they're able to sing safely as well. So those are the biggest things. And we've already purchased, and we have the bell covers and face masks for the wind instruments. And I believe the order for the choir masks have already gone out. So those are the biggest things. And then, you know, everything else is spacing. The study said that 6 feet is good for all instruments except trombones. They have to be 9 feet apart. We would still do the cleaning of the stands and chairs, and everybody would have to have their own music folder. They'd have to complete the screener, just like athletes would. So beyond that, it's pretty much the same. And we've been working with Carla Smith as well. So I don't know if Carla, if I missed anything.
Yeah, the only other thing that we had talked about was, instead of doing the bell covers, we would be requiring the entire instrument cover. There's another device that kind of slides over the entire instrument, and it has like some little fitted hands for the keys for the students to be able to play. So I believe that is something that the COAC administration had decided that would be the direction they want to go for our students, to ensure that safety as well for the aerosols, with the exception of the trumpet, trombone, and the instruments that need the bell cover. But like any of the woodwinds would require that entire instrument covers the direction our district has decided to kind of go for an increased safety measure.
Okay. All right, I'll have to look into what those are called, but I know what you're talking about, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Maria, is there anything else specifically you'd like to know?
Theater included in this proposal?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because, theater would be similar to the singing. Well, I guess if it's a musical or any kind of acting, the 6 feet distancing with the mask, it's pretty much the same things we're looking at with music. feeder as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the information. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Those are all my questions.
Thank you so much. Board Member Jacobs, you had another question?
Yeah, just a really quick one. This is directed to the choir director. I'm really curious now about these. As a former singer, I'm very interested in knowing about the face mask for singers. What does that entail?
I'm the band director, so I'm not. Matt Anderson, who's the choir director, has described them to me. There's some kind of face mask with a that allows it to be pushed forward from your face, but still covered.
Oh, I think I know what you mean, Chris.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Barron.
That's okay.
Kind of
Yeah.
like the have like the
because
to hold them out.
right, yeah, of the projection and the okay.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
one of the other recommendations would be considering having those students possibly double mask as well, just to have the more layers of a mask obviously contain aerosol spray more. So that would be a consideration for that group too.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. My colleagues here have taken all of my questions, so I don't have anything else, but I just want to give one more opportunity for Ms. Smith. Did you have anything that you'd want to add about the safety considerations or anything else that hasn't already been covered?
Nothing I can think of offhand, but just letting you guys know that we obviously would follow the Rock County guidelines, and we would err on the side of caution if there's any concern with anything going on in any of the groups across the board, whether it's choir, theater, band, athletics. Obviously, the indoor activity, like the clubs, are a little bit more easily maintained because, they'll be in a classroom setting. We can have them socially distanced. They can have assigned seating charts for when they're meeting. They're not going to be meeting every day. So obviously, there's that time in between. So if somebody does become symptomatic, there wouldn't be as much of a risk. So that's a lot of the things we've kind of talked about within those other settings that we maybe didn't focus on today so much.
Thank you so much. And I guess that did raise a question for me. With regard to contact tracing, would coaches or the designated kind of adult in charge of that activity, would they be in charge of contact tracing, or is there additional help support for that?
It would be the health office staff that would be required to do that. The one thing we are asking the coaches to kind of have some accountability for would be to ensure that every athlete or every person in the club did complete their screener. So they'll have access to see that it was completed, but not the actual information other than that. So that we can just make sure everybody is doing that across the board. But otherwise, the health staff would be responsible for doing the contact tracing and following through on that to provide the correct guidance.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for speaking to that. It looks, let me just check the chat. It looks like there's an additional question also from Board Member Levy. Go ahead, please, Board Member Levy.
Thank you. Mr. Beard, I don't want to overburden anyone, but I'm about to make a request, and you tell me how much of a burden it is. How feasible would it be to give if this is approved and we move forward with athletics and extracurriculars, to give a monthly report? Like, these are the things that are going well, these are the concerns we're having. And I see that as twofold, just so we can kind of keep the pulse of how things are going, but also so we can use that information because eventually we are going to be back in person and we can use kind of those best practices, et cetera. So how much of a burden would that be to generate a monthly report that kind of gives an overview of how things are going if there are any concerns?
That wouldn't be a burden at all. I would actually look forward to that, to being able to share that information of how well it's going. And I'm anticipating our coaches and student athletes following it to the letter. So yeah, I would more than happy to do that.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you both. I'm checking the chat. It looks like I don't have anybody else in the chat at this time. So if somebody would like to make a motion, we would hear that now.
I'll move approval to begin athletics and extracurricular activities for the 2020-2021 school year.
Second.
I was trying to squeeze in a friendly amendment. Could we specify that we would have that monthly report that Mr. Beard has agreed to coordinating for us?
So I'll just not recognize the second that was offered. And Board Member Wong, are you open to that friendly amendment?
Yeah, that's fine.
Can I second now?
President Miller, you're frozen?
Yeah.
Maybe she's really still.
Well, kudos if she is. I couldn't do that.
Pretty impressive.
Okay, I'm going to text her.
Sorry about that. My internet seems to have gone out. What did I miss?
We're waiting for you.
Well, sorry about that. So are we okay
That's
with
okay.
With that friendly amendment?
Yes, and there was a second on that.
Wonderful. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, at this time let me move on to our thing here. Since my internet went out, I'm calling in from my cell phone, so I lost my board docs piece here, but I believe that concludes our action items. Oh, here, it's still up. Okay, great. So thank you so much for Dr. Kieser, for Joel Beard, Ms. Pels, Mr. Behrens, and everybody else who contributed to that presentation. It's definitely appreciated. We are moving on now to the consent agenda. Would anybody like to remove anything from the consent agenda at this time? Okay, hearing none, would anybody like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second, John. I'll let you have it.
All right, Ms. Shope, are you good on who moved and seconded the consent agenda?
She is.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Kieser, for letting us know. Okay, any discussion on the consent agenda before we vote? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we are moving on to item number 8, which is board elections and appointments. Item 8A is the vice president election and a clerk election if needed. Ms. Shope, are you able to at this time send out our Google form so we're able to confidentially vote?
Yes, I just need to make one quick copy of it.
No, you're fine. And then I'll turn my camera off for a moment so I'm just using my cellular data so I can switch over and vote via email on my phone here then. Okay, while we're waiting, I just want to frame this. I know last time we had a split vote. Let me look, I lost my notes here. Here we go. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to vote twice, and in a moment I'll open it up to see if we need to, and I'll open it up to see if board members Levy or Wong would like another opportunity to give any kind of comments before we vote, so that we can start with that. If we vote twice and there's still a split vote, we're going to postpone this until the next meeting. I just also want to point out that there will also be leadership opportunities available as we enter into strategic planning shortly to follow the superintendent search. So just wanting folks to keep that in mind on our board as well. All right, at this time, Board Member Wong, would you like to give any comments ahead of our vote here about why we should vote for you for Vice President?
I would just say the same things that I said previously. I think that, I have the longest tenured representative on the board at this time. I have served in the position before, and I also served as president for a very short period of time. I'm confident that I can, carry it forward, and I know it's only for a few months as well. So I hope that people will vote for me.
Thank you so much. Board Member Levy.
Thank you. Not much new to add. I think my record of service speaks for itself. I'm always prompt and prepared, and I would welcome the opportunity to serve as the board vice president, and I appreciate your support.
Awesome. Thank you. And it looks like at this time, Ms. Shope has sent out our secret ballot. So let's take a moment to complete that, please. Ms. Shope, will you let us know when you receive all 6 votes? I'll just assume yes. Thank you.
Yes, I will. Okay, I have all 6 responses. And drum roll, no, I'm kidding. It appears that the vote tonight is 4 votes for John Wong and 2 votes for Amy Levy.
All right, thank you very much. Congratulations, Vice President Wong. Vice President Wong was serving as board clerk, the next task we have is to nominate and elect a board clerk. So at this time, I will take nominations if there are any at this time. I should note that anybody who's up for re-election is prohibited from serving as board clerk due to the conflict of interest in doing the vote stuff. So anybody besides Board Member Anderson.
I'll nominate Board Member Delgado for clerk.
Do you accept Board Member Delgado?
Sure, why not?
Okay. Are there any other nominations at this time? All right. So at this time, we have Board Member Delgado has been nominated to fill the role as clerk. I would take I'm not sure if we have to move this. Do we have to move to do unanimous, or it's not unanimous consent, right? It's a vote by acclamation. What is required exactly for that, Ms. Shope?
I believe in the past, the board president has just asked if the board wants to do a vote of acclamation. And if everybody says yes, then you just kind of ask everybody to vote, like who votes aye and who votes nay kind of thing.
Okay. Do I have the consent of the board to conduct a vote by acclamation?
Yes.
All right,
Sure.
thank you.
Yes.
So at this time, all in favor of Board Member Delgado filling the role of board clerk, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? All right, congratulations, Board Member Delgado, on your position as clerk. That takes us to the next agenda item, which is item 8B, which is the president appointments. So since we shook up our board a little bit, I will no longer be serving as a member on the Planning and Budget Committee, but Board Member Delgado, when I reached out via email to see who was interested, was the sole person who responded that they were in fact interested. So at this time, I would like to appoint Board Clerk Delgado to the role of a committee representative for the Planning and Budget Committee. So congratulations on that as well. Gotta love the meeting.
And at this time, I would also like to appoint Amy Levy, Board Member Levy, as our legislative liaison, since she also expressed interest in that role. So we can note on the minutes that those are the changes. Does anybody have any questions at this time? All right, it looks like my internet decided to come back, but since we're leaving, I'll just stay on my phone here. So let me just read for us then our future board meeting dates. We're on item 9A. We have a special board meeting tomorrow on January 27th at 6 o'clock. We'll be meeting an open session to go through the any questions that were submitted by our community members that we can consider to ask for our final interview questions. I said that kind of badly, but essentially we're going to be drawing from a pool of questions submitted by the community in order to create the final round interview questions for the interviews that will take place in closed session then on Thursday. If we don't have a satisfactory number of questions from the community that we feel meet the needs of the interview, we'll also be drawing from suggested questions from WASB. All right, are there any questions about that meeting tomorrow at 6? Okay, hearing none, moving on to Thursday, January 28th. We will continue our superintendent search process by meeting in closed session at 4:45 p.m. To prepare for the final round interviews with our 3 final candidates. Next, we'll have a special board meeting Monday, February 1st. This will also be in closed session, and we'll be meeting at 6:30 in order to go over background check and reference information. The next meeting will be a Planning and Budget Committee meeting on Tuesday, February 2nd, and that will convene at 5:15. On Wednesday, February 3rd, from 5:30 to 7 o'clock, there will be an ad hoc language barrier committee meeting. If anybody, by the way, is interested in the community in attending that meeting who's not already attending, please feel free to reach out to me or to Board Member Delgado, and we'd love for you to join us. It's a very robust discussion in that group. Oversight and Finance meets Tuesday, February 9th at a time yet to be determined. Policy and Personnel Committee will also meet Tuesday, February 9th at a time yet to be determined. And a regular board meeting will then be on Tuesday, February 9th at a time yet to be determined. Go ahead, please, Board Member Levy.
Couple quick questions. It's my understanding that community partners who participated in the candidate forum on Monday filled out questionnaires. When will that information be provided to board members? Mm-hmm. And then also, I know the community one was on YouTube and we can access that one, but the staff, that was recorded, and when will board members receive that recording to view as well?
Thank you, because I was going to mention that earlier. So first, yes, WASB owns those recordings, and Mr. Neerad reached out earlier today to let me know that WASB is planning on sending out both recorded meeting links to us sometime tomorrow morning. So as soon as Ms. Christopa and or Ms. Shope and her team are able to get that online, I don't know if we'll send out a notification for that, but people should check hopefully sometime tomorrow to be able to view those recordings. I think we're supposed to get the feedback from community members Friday. However, I did thank you for saying that, because I wanted to point out that we also just got links earlier today from WASB for the feedback forms that people filled out. So if there are community members or staff, for that matter, who are unable to attend yesterday, but who are able to watch the recordings, they are able then to fill out and submit feedback on candidates. I double checked with WASB, and they felt that was appropriate. So that window is going to close shortly. I think we called it at Friday morning so that they would have enough time to compile that for us so that we'd have access to it by Saturday. I'll double check, and if I'm incorrect, we'll post language on the website explaining the timing. So not a ton of time left to do that, but I think large enough of a window so if people wanted to watch again and submit feedback, they could. Thank you for those questions. Did that answer everything?
It did. Thank you.
Oh, no, yeah, thank you. I'm so glad you brought that up. Before we adjourn, are there any other questions, comments, or thoughts that we'd like to share? Yes, Board Member Jacobs.
I would like to thank you, President Miller, for running a very defined meeting, and we are done in 2 hours, and it'll be about 24 minutes. Uh-oh. Well, there she is. Oh, good. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I apologize for my internet going out, and that was my low battery thing flashing across my screen. So I'll try to brush up my technology for next time. I appreciate that very much. I think I'm really pleased with everybody, and I'm really happy to be part of this board, and we're a great team. So thank you so much. Anything else before we adjourn? All right, then I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, have a wonderful evening. Thanks, everybody.